Cowabunga, dudes and dudettes. This is Anthony, aka Batbomb82, and welcome to another episode of the Time Capsule of Toys, the totally radical show where I took a look at all the awesome toys of yesteryear. Some you may remember, and some you may not, but for this episode, I'll be taking a look at the 1991 G.I. Joe Snake Eyes and his modern update. These figures are incredibly cool, and this particular version of Snake Eyes has always been my favorite version of the character, and to be honest, this toy is actually my all-time favorite G.I. Joe action figure. When I found out they made a modern version of him, I could not sweep them both up fast enough. It is so incredibly cool to see the classic and the modern in the same figure. This is so incredibly rad, and I cannot wait to check them out with you guys. But before we take a closer look at the figures, let's take a look at the accessories. So starting with the vintage Snake Eyes, we get a stand, a rocket-firing backpack, a gun, and two katanas, most of these accessories being molded in that bright orange. And for the modern figure, we do get a stand with the G.I. Joe logo printed atop, and we also get a black katana. So with the accessories out of the way, let's take a closer look at Snake Eyes. Alright guys, now let's take a closer look at Snake Eyes. I love these toys. Now for a lot of you again, you might absolutely love this version of Snake Eyes that was released in 1991. Now, I know a lot of fans out there don't particularly like this version of Snake Eyes. In fact, there's a whole group that really hate this version of the toy. But I love him, and for me, he was my childhood Snake Eyes, and that's all that needed to be said. Like, there was no other version. I know a lot of people who collect G.I. Joe prefer his more traditional all-black look and whatnot, but this was in an era when G.I. Joe started doing a little more, wild designs and brightly colored toys and whatnot, and I know a lot of people who like G.I. Joe are more into the straight-up military aspect of the toy line, but for me, all the brightly colored stuff of like the 90s and whatnot, and not just G.I. Joe, but a lot of different toy lines, I just ate it all up. And this era of G.I. Joe was definitely some of them. It's just incredibly cool. So I want to start off with the vintage one first. So recently, I actually just started drawing some of my favorite G.I. Joes, and I actually did just draw Snake Eyes. Because again, he was just my absolute favorite as a kid, and even now as an adult, this is still my favorite G.I. Joe toy, so I just had to draw him in my own little way. So again, if you don't follow me and follow a lot more of my work, I do have a lot more G.I. Joe drawings up on Instagram at ArtLife82, so please go ahead and check it out. So the figure itself is fantastic. I absolutely love the sculpt and whatnot. Just very, very cool. I love the blues. You know what I mean? Again, not everybody liked them back in the day. This is an older toy, so he's a little beat up and whatnot, but he's still great to me. I love the blue going down the side and whatnot. The gauntlets, that kind of like ski mask that's made of like bright metallic silver with the red goggles was just so fantastic to me. I loved it. Bringing in the modern version here, you can see where the modern version is inspired by this. It's not a direct remake, but is inspired by the original version. Now, this new one looks great too. I love this one a lot. You got the more sculpted, more proportionate. Everything just looks a lot better when compared to the original version. Just looks more realistic. All that looks fantastic. The paint apps look really good. The blue is a little more muted and whatnot. It actually has a separate piece out of the vest, where this one is just part of the sculpt. Even the mask looks a little more realistic in my opinion. All looks very, very cool. You got the same blue around the shins right there. No blue stripe going down the side of the pants of these. He's wearing more cargo pants on this one. What's interesting about this one, this was actually a figure exclusive from an exclusive line that Hasbro put out to all Dollar General stores. Now in my area, we don't have Dollar General stores. So what that was is kind of like a discount store where they sold really cheap stuff. And for some reason, Hasbro decided to give us a whole couple waves of G.I. Joe figures for really, really cheap. And this was in that wave. And it's pretty cool because what they did is initially just kind of mix and mesh different parts from previous released G.I. Joe toys from the more modern line, redecoed him to make him look like this guy. So this is just like a amalgamesh of other parts to create him with just the proper paint apps. So that's pretty cool. Both figures do have their stands, because I think when you have a G.I. Joe figure, you have to have a stand. Otherwise, they just do not stand all that great on their own. You could do it, but they don't work all that great. So let's take a look at some of the accessories here. So we do get this massive like thing right here, which is his backpack. Now this was a gimmick, because a lot of G.I. Joes around this era did have gimmicks, and for this one here was this rocket firing backpack. So you kind of have to like unstring the wire a little bit. It is a nice on an actual string, which is fantastic. Just get me unhoop that a little bit, and there's a little switch down here, and boom, it rocket fires just like that, and it goes shooting. That's a nice long string. You can kind of see that all the way around. I love that so much. Just get back that on there, and then you take the figure, and the kid does peg into his back just like so, and it's so big and outlandish and gnarly, and it really doesn't look right, but as a kid, I didn't care. It was awesome, and I loved it, and I would love hooking this thing onto like things around my house, and just kind of have Snake Eyes dangling and around and whatnot. It was just a lot of fun, and oh man, I loved it so much. So many fun hours spent with this toy. We also do get this gun right here, which is really cool. The nice long extended barrel. I love that. You can hold that in either hand like so. It does not hold it properly, to be honest. And I don't remember having trouble holding it as a kid. Him holding it as a kid, like, it can do it. It just looks a little awkward. So what I've been doing is holding it by that second handle and kind of like tucking it in like that. And he holds it a little better and a little more straightforward. So I don't remember if I did that as a kid, but that's kind of what I've been doing now. So pretty cool. We also did get these two awesome katanas done in that same bright neon orange. I don't know why this fascinated me about this figure with these brightly colored weapons and whatnot. They were just so very cool. I love the fact that he came with two of them, because I think two katanas was just so awesome, because I mean, two's better than one, right? So I just love that so much, and especially me being a Leonardo fan from the Ninja Turtles, you know, two katanas was rad. So that's very cool. Just, that's such a cool look to me, very iconic in my opinion. Now with the modern version, we only get the one katana right here, what is molded in the black. And it's a nice sculpt and whatnot. It works out great. He can hold it in either hand, and he holds it fairly well. So that's pretty cool. The only thing I do wish is, first of all, I wish he came with more accessories. Since this was a bargain figure at retail, he didn't really come with much. He only came with one katana and the stand. I wish he came with two katanas, or at least one katana and a gun. But with this one, I wish they were molded in that same neon orange. That would have been just put it over the top for me. But luckily, with this katana here, it does fit in the hands of this one. So you could technically have him holding the vintage sword, and I think that looks pretty cool. So you can get that one right there, and then get this guy holding another katana from that same thing like that. So you can both have them both wielding that orange sword. So very cool. That's just something I thought looked pretty cool. And I probably will actually display him like this with an orange katana, because it just feels more right to me. So let's take a look at the articulation here. So we're going to go with the original one first, since it's a little more basic compared to the modern versions. So we do get this almost like ball disc-like hinge on the neck. It does rotate up and down, not really pivots. Arms go full 360 out about that. Single bend at the elbow, rotation at the elbow. We do get a ball peg at the waist, so that rolls around, swivels back and forth, pivots side to side. Actually works pretty good. Hip joints that keep forward that much. Back, not so much. Knees that bend right there, just a single bend at the knee that works out pretty good, and that's really it. That's the only articulation that we get for these older figures. So again, pretty basic. Now with this modern version, again, a lot more modern techniques and whatnot. So the head is on a ball peg, just rolls around very nice. Does turn left and right, up and down, pivot side to side. Arms can go full 360 like that. Up and out very far. Single bend at the elbow, as well as rotation at the elbow. We get a rotation at the wrist, as well as a hinge at the wrist. We get a ball peg in the upper mid-torso right there, so that rolls around, swivels, pivots, crunches back and forth. Hip joints that kick up and forward very high. Back, all the way back like so. No upper thigh swivel, but we do get double jointed knees, so I love that. We get an ankle joint, allows you to point the toe up and down. No ankle rocker, but that does rotate left and right. So a lot more posability with this guy right here. So overall, I absolutely love these toys right here. Again, my all-time favorite Snake Eyes, my all-time favorite G.I. Joe toy as a kid, and I still love him again to this day. He's so incredibly cool, the design, the wacky colors. You know, again, I know a lot of people hate him in the collector world and whatnot, but I just completely love him. And the fact that we got like a modern version of him with, you know, modern techniques and whatnot, it was just incredibly cool to me. So hopefully one day I can get a 6-inch version, because that is my preferred scale. And it's always been kind of rumored that Hasbro's going to end up giving us a 6-inch scale G.I. Joe figure. So if that happens, man, I'm going to be all in and very, very broke. So if you can get these guys, they are incredibly awesome, and I think they are definitely a must get. So for a quick size comparison, here they are standing next to a Marvel Legends Deadpool figure, as well as a DCUC Batman figure. And for your G.I. Joe comparison, here they are standing next to a modern Storm Shadow and a classic Alley Viper. And just for fun, here they are standing next to little Lego Bat-Ball. So there it is, guys, my review of the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes, the classic version and the modern update. So overall, man, I just absolutely love these two action figures. Having my childhood Snake Eyes being remade into a modern awesome action figure is incredibly cool to me. This was my all-time favorite G.I. Joe toy, and I am so stoked that I have both of these in my collection. So ask yourself, remember that toy? Stay nerdy, my friends. Peace.